Hello, it's Steve Mills here, and welcome to this live stream. It's great to be back, sharing with you some more tried, tested, and proven ways that you can grow your business. Now, one of the hardest things I believe to do in business is to start. It's almost like, any sport, when you start off in my sport at table tennis, you can't really get the ball on the table. And if you do, you can't really hit it or spin it very hard, and so on and so forth. And so it is a lot in business. But I'd like to just start by talking about somebody that I know and respect really well in terms of being a business advisor. And that guy is a gentleman called Michael Gerber. Now, if you don't know of Gerber, I strongly recommend that you take a look at some of the things he says. In particular, you go and buy his book called The E-Myth. It's the entrepreneurial myth, and it's got a subhead of why small businesses don't work and what to do about it. And when you think about a small business not working, the truth of the matter is that 80% of small businesses that start each year go bust within 5 years. Now, let me clarify, that's in good times. Not in times like now when things are tough and the economies and, wars and, you name it. That's in good times. So 80, if you're starting off in business now, how about this for a motivational talk? You've got an 80% chance you're going to fail within 5 years. The question, and I would also say at this point, questions are the answer. That's a little saying that I've had over the years. If you got a problem, ask yourself a good question. If you've got a marketing problem, ask yourself, what do I need to do in terms of marketing my business that's going to create some leads? Not just get my name out there. That let's leave that to Coca-Cola and Nike. Getting the name out there. We want leads. We don't want marketing. We want leads. And that's really, really important. So that said, let's just look at this opportunity, I believe, of understanding why businesses go bust. If they go bust, if 80% of them go bust, why? Well, I believe that it's to do with what I call operational expertise. What do I mean by that? I mean that most people, when they go into business because they either love what they do, and sometimes it's like a hobby and it turns into what you do. So someone might be, for example, might play a lot of tennis and decide to become a tennis coach. They might be into they've worked in HR as a HR manager or director or whatever for 20 years and decide that they're fed up with all the travel and all the hassle and decide they want to start their own business. And here lies what I believe is probably 80%, and I actually believe it's probably higher than that. I'm going to say it's 90% of the problem. Operational expertise. You're often, when people start in business, they are experts at what they do. They're really good at it. They might be a hairdresser, they might be a garage mechanic, they might be a marketing advisor, they might be an accountant or a lawyer or a coach, an advisor, whatever it is they do and or you do. If I asked you, for example, to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being really rubbish, I really don't know how to do X, to 10 being absolutely world class, we're talking top of the tree, not like okay, with 5 being like average, pretty much like most business owners. Where would you rate yourself? Where would you rate yourself operationally in terms of what you do? There are no doubt things that, even operationally you do better. You might, if you're a coach or advisor, you might be better doing groups because you love getting up in front of a group of people, or you might hate that because you much prefer to work one-to-one. I'm thinking along those lines. So think about that from an operational point of view, and then perhaps work out what you need to do in order to improve in the areas that you're weak. But more often, people who go into business are weak, or at least weaker, at the marketing and sales side of the business, and also the financial side of the business. They don't even like it. They don't want to do it. I see it all the time. I've been doing this now for over 30 years. I've worked in hundreds of industries. I've worked with thousands of businesses, actually over 10,000 different businesses have either attended my workshops, I've worked with on a one-to-one basis, they've joined as part of my group, and I've coached, advised, trained, and helped them to make, literally, not all of them, but some of them, many, many millions of pounds, others to go from startup to 100K, and so on and so forth. So we're going to talk in a minute about how to do that, how to get that 100,000, which is what I'm coming to. But before that, I want to get you thinking about what you need to do in order to achieve that. There are only two ways of growing a business. Let's be really clear on this. You can, when I say, hang on, let me just take a step back. When I say grow a business, I'm talking about grow a profit, because they're all saying income is vanity, profit is sanity. You know, so if you make another 100,000 in the next 12 months, but your costs go up by 150,000, you're not really going to thank me that much. You know, I've not really done that much for you, helping you lose 50,000 pounds. Yeah, thanks, Steve. So we're not into that. We're talking about profit. We want you to make a profit. We want you to make more profit if you're already making a profit. So the two ways of making more profit. Number one is to reduce costs. Now, there's something somewhere that you can reduce. And what people tend to do when you talk to them about reducing costs, they go, right, let's cut back on marketing, the very thing that's going to do the other thing, which is increasing sales, by the way. And they go, well, let's stop training, because we don't, that's wasted money. We don't need to do that. It's not a necessity. And often they're the worst two things that you can cut back on. Actually, what my belief is, you know, if things aren't going well, or even if they are going well and you want them to go better, you need to increase your marketing. Don't need to increase the amount of marketing money that you're wasting, but we need to become better at it and do more of it. Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. So, you know, good practice based on what we're doing here today is to go and have a look at all your costs and work out what you can save. But don't cut back on sales and marketing and training and things like that. And I know you might be thinking, oh, yeah, I would say that. Yeah, he's trying to sell me something. I'm not here to sell you anything, right? I'm just here to try and help you. Okay, so the second thing, and the thing that will give you the most leverage, is to increase sales. You know, how high could you increase sales? Whatever level you want, really. You could become a worldwide, you know, in the consultancy world that I work in, you know, top of the tree is Tony Robbins. He's built a £7 billion consultancy business. It's a little bit more than me. I say that very tongue-in-cheek, by the way. You know, that's fantastic, isn't it? You know, how could you? He's a consultant. You know, how could you do that? That's phenomenal. And you know, there are a load of people who've made many millions of pounds doing that. But the vast, you know, what the average income of a consultant is in the UK? What would you think? You think, oh, consultant, they earn loads of money, don't they, Steve? No, the average is £35,000. 35,000. Now, if there are people out there earning 100, 200, 300,000, which there are, people who, you know, the average being 35, that means a lot of people are earning a lot less than 35,000. So next time you meet a consultant, you know, just bear in mind that they're not necessarily, as wealthy as you might think they are. But anyway, that's getting beside the point. So if we've got to increase sales, and we have, then it makes perfect sense to me that in order to do that, you've got to become better at selling and marketing what you do. It's just the way it is. You've got to become better at it, and you've got to do more of it, and you've got to make sure that you get better results. That's what I focus on. I've spent over 30 years helping businesses to get better at creating results. Recently I started calling myself the results guy. I don't know whether that's a good thing or not, but I do think I focus, all my clients are focused on, right, well, what results did you get? What was the results? I don't want to know about, I've got another, 500 followers on Facebook. Stick that in the bank. Yeah, you can't. You need results. How many meetings? How many sales? What did that create? And to grow a business, there are 3 keys, 3 things for you to focus on. Number 1 is the acquisition of customers, getting new customers. And to do that, you've got to do several things. You need to, firstly, overcome what I call obscurity. Nobody's heard of you. Nobody's heard of me. I've been doing it 30 years. I've been posting every day on LinkedIn for the last 20 years, sometimes 4, 5, 6, 10 times. And there are 3 million businesses in the UK, and I'm known by about 100,000 of them. What went wrong, Steve? Why are you not, known by everybody? Because everybody's trying to get known by everybody. And, I meet business owners all the time who, and I say to them, so tell me, how many contacts have you got on LinkedIn? They say, I don't really know. I think it's about 800. How long have you been in business? 10 years now. 10 years and you've only got 800 contacts. What have you been doing? I've been working in my business operationally, making it, shipping it, selling it. I've been doing that sort of work. I've not been working on my business, not been working on growing my business. Okay, so number 1 is to look at what you can do to increase the number of customers. We'll talk about this a little bit later because I want to go through the 3 stages. Number 2 is to increase the average unit of sale. That's the average amount of money each customer spends each time they buy from you. What is that? What is your average unit of sale? What is your lifetime value of a customer? When you get a customer, how much do they spend on average, and how often do they come back? Because that's the 3rd key to growing a business, getting repeat business. I remember once doing a seminar up in Carlisle, and this guy said, this doesn't apply to me. I thought, I'm going to show him how it does. I said, why? What do you do? He said, I'm a funeral director. He said, the thought of getting people to come back more often is a little bit scary. I said, no. The guy in the box is not the customer. It's the family of those people who think, what a great service you provided. And sadly, the next time anybody passes away, hopefully they'll come back to you. And he said, okay, yeah, you're right. But, think about what are you doing to keep in touch. One of the biggest mistakes I talk about, and I've got quite a nice report, actually. It's called low-hanging fruit. If you want it, just send me an email. And it's steve@results-mastery.com. Send me an email and I'll send you a copy of that report. And it highlights things like, how often are you getting in touch with your past customers, people who've, for whatever reason, they've just disappeared into like oblivion. They're no longer, you're no longer communicating with them. And I know if you're here, on this is your first day in business, you're not going to have that, but you'll have people that from your past that you could possibly contact and tell them what you're doing now. Ask them if they know anybody. Ask them if they're interested in what you're doing. They could be people you've worked with, people that you know socially. You know, my biggest order that I ever got came from somebody that I played tennis with. And that's a terrible thing to admit as a marketer, you know, but that's just the way it happened. You know, I was down the pub afterwards, after a match that I played against this club team, and one of the guys in their team said, "So what do you do, Steve?" I told them and said, "Oh, we ought to talk." We did, and it became an ongoing relationship, and that became our biggest client at that time. So, you know, this is a great opportunity for you. Now, let me ask you a question. Which is the most difficult to do you think? Getting new customers, selling a larger amount to your current customers, or getting your current customers to come back more often and buy from you? Well, the answer is that it is more difficult, more expensive, more time consuming to sell to strangers, people that don't know you. Okay. So number 2 and number 3 are where it's at, where the money is. Now, again, if you're starting off, you might not have a list. But one of your jobs, one of your responsibilities is, number 1 is to get a list. If you want to get to 100 grand within the next 12 months, then today's the day to start growing that list. Overcome obscurity. Once you've got people on your list, and that could be a list on LinkedIn, I also think it should be a list in a CRM, customer relationship management software. And by the way, I do have one, and if you want to buy into that, it is probably the best one in the world. It's not mine, but it's something I sell and endorse. So whilst I said I wasn't going to sell you anything, I'd be doing you a really big favor if you bought that, because it is fantastic. Once you've done that, you've got to keep in touch with those people. There's no point coming to me and going, "Oh yeah, you know, I've got a list of 10,000 people." I say, "Well, how often do you keep in touch with them?" And you say, "Well, we send out a quarterly newsletter." That's like saying, you know, I'm trying to get fit, so I've joined the gym, and my strategy is to go down there once every 3 months and do 10 curls. You know, that ain't going to get you fit after 10 curls. You got to do it consistently. You got to do it ongoing. You got to push that muscle. You got to build that muscle. Look at that muscle. That's not somebody who goes down the gym on a regular basis, is it really? But anyway, what you've got to do is to build your marketing muscle, right? And when I say marketing, I actually prefer a term, lead generation muscle. Yeah, marketing is marketing, and that's great, but it's all, for me, it's all about results. As I've said, we want to generate more results. So my tip for you, but what's all this culminating in? It's this. It's very simple. How to get 100K plus in extra income in the next 12 months comes down to 2 things. Number 1 is what I want you to do is to write a list of everything that you're doing right now. So you might have a website. You might be on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or X as it's now called, and other social media. You might have some email marketing. You might be going networking. You might be one of those companies who says, well, we don't really do any marketing. We rely on referral. Well, that's good in a way, because it gives you a huge potential to grow your business. Because if you're just relying on referral, what about all the other business that you could be winning that you're giving to your competitors? That's an easy fix, yeah, if that's all you're doing. But for now, write down everything that you're doing. Then I want you to rate it on that scale of 1 to 10. World class being 10, average business being 5, 1 being absolutely awful at it. You know, and once you've done that, we've got to work out how we can raise our game. So that's step one. There's 2 steps, so that's step one. So let me give you an example of this. I get a lot of people who say, when I ask, have you got a website? They go, oh, yeah, got a website, yeah. All right, okay, so how many people are visiting your website? Oh, I don't know. Well, you need to go and find out then. So that's another step for you. How many people are visiting your website? Let's assume if you're not doing that much marketing, that not that many people are coming, but let's say it's, I don't know, 500 people per month. So what would a good objective be? Let's say to double that amount within 2 months. You want to get 1,000 people every month to come to your website. Now you could say, well, you know, that's great, Steve, but how do I do that? Well, again, there's loads of ways. You could use LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, you know, posting every day, getting people to click on the link that you provide. By the way, you should never, ever, 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 ever do a social media post without adding a link. Tell them where to go. Go here to find out more. Don't be one of these people who write, you know, War and Peace, massive social media posts so people can read everything. Because if you do, they've read everything. Why not send them to your website where they might get an understanding of what you do and how you might be able to help them? So that, I think, is really important. The other problem that you might have is you might be sending loads of people to your website, but nobody's buying, because you've got a website that doesn't convert. What a waste of time, effort, and money. So in a way, that should be before you drive traffic. You don't want to spend a load of time, effort, and money driving people to your website if the website doesn't convert. Does that make sense? It'd be madness. Why would you do that? So we've got to look at what you can do to improve the conversion rate of your website. Now, let me just talk for a minute back about getting traffic. I mentioned you do social, you do email, you can do some search engine optimization, which is not as difficult as you think, actually. You know, I could teach you that in about half an hour, or at least the basics of it. You could do paid advertising on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Google, on YouTube, and probably 1,000 other places. You know, there's loads of things that you can do to drive traffic to your website. And if you're not doing any of them, then there's a great opportunity for you to massively increase the amount of money that's coming into your business by starting to do it. So, you know, keep going, keep putting time and effort into that type of marketing. So we've just covered one area, but you've no doubt got others. You know, LinkedIn. You know, I see on LinkedIn all the time people go, oh, I'm connected to about 1,000 people. All right. So how often do you post on LinkedIn? Oh, twice a week. I don't want to bombard people. Twice a week is like going to the gym once a month. It's a waste, actually almost, not quite a waste of time. It's better than nothing, but it's not much of a step up from that. It's not really going to win you that much business. So you need to do this, guys. You know, it's you know, I suppose what I'm saying here is the more effort you put in to what you're doing, the better results you're going to get out of it. Let me tell you this. All marketing works, everything. The trouble is it doesn't work all the time. In fact, it doesn't even work most of the time. What you're looking for are the key to unlock that marketing. You know, if you're doing Facebook advertising, you know, it may or may not be working for you right now. If you're on LinkedIn, your current plan of posting twice a week, I'd almost guarantee isn't working right now, because you need to do a lot more than that. And it's not just about posting, by the way, it's about doing other things as well. So if that's the case, we've got to look at what we're doing. This is like the first step. and work on how we can improve the effectiveness of that. I really hope this is making sense. I haven't really got time. I can't go into it telling you how to improve everything. But if you could, you know, if you're on LinkedIn and that's winning you a couple of leads a month, and you implemented a LinkedIn plan, then that would be fantastic for you. Let me just show you this. Let me just see if I can show you. Yeah, here. Let me show you this. There you go. Okay, so here I keep saying I didn't mean to tell you or sell you anything, but I hope I'm going to sell you this, to be honest, because it'd be brilliant for you. I've developed something called the Results Mastery AI Advisor. It's an AI, okay, and I charge £10 plus VAT per month for it. So it's a monthly subscription. There's no tie-in. And what it will do is it will provide you with advice. So it's based on my knowledge. Okay, so you can go in there and you can say, produce a, trying to think of a good example. Okay, here's one. Produce a marketing plan to help me to win at least £100,000 worth of additional income over the next 12 months. And then you need to tell it a little bit more than that. You might say, at the moment, I'm turning over X. I market my business. I've got a website. Here's a link to it. So give it the link, show it what you've got, because it wants to see that, to see if anything needs to be done. I'm also marketing my business on LinkedIn, and send it to your LinkedIn profile so it can see that as well. Treat it like you would be if you were talking to me. You know, I'd want to see your website. I want to see your LinkedIn. I want to see what, you know, find out what you're doing in terms of any advertising that you're doing, and whether you're using email marketing and so on and so forth. So give it as much information as you can in order to help it to produce this plan. That's like phase one with the AI advisor. Phase two, it's sort of got a marketing assistant built in, and it will do the work for you. So if part of that plan is that you need to post 3 times a day on LinkedIn for forever, 3 times a day, just go and say to it, right, what I'd like you to do now is to produce 90 social media posts that I can use over the next 30 days. That would then produce the 90 social media posts, and all you have to do is just upload them in there. In fact, if you used our software, which is available, it's called the Results Mastery Hub, the CRM system that I mentioned recently, that would do it for you. So you can really automate this. It's not about, oh, I haven't got time to do it. You haven't got time to not do it, or you haven't got the capability of not doing it and to survive, possibly. But anyway, yeah, so let me just get rid of that for you. And by the way, if you want to find out more about that, go to my website, results-mastery.com, and you can sign up for it. Or again, just email me, and I'll be happy to try to help you. So phase one, going back, I said improve what you're already doing. Phase two, do new stuff, right? So what's the new stuff that you could be doing? The new stuff could be something like, to talk about what I call marketing without money. In other words, marketing that doesn't cost you anything. You could look at referral marketing. You win business from referral, hopefully, and you need a plan. You need to know what to do to encourage more business from referral. Because if you've got a referral plan that goes something like this, oh, yeah, thanks for your feedback. I was wondering whether you knew anybody else who'd be interested in what I do. The standard answer to that is no, I don't really at the moment. But if I do, I'll certainly let you know, Steve. So we need something a little bit better than that. We need a better script. And here's mine. So I might say to you guys, thanks for attending today. I really hope it's been of value. I was wondering whether you could do me a really big favor. I was wondering, the next time you see I'm running an event like this, I wonder whether you'd be kind enough to let everybody and anybody who you think would benefit from attending this sort of event, and you'd tell them about it. Would you do that for me? You see what I mean? I've changed. It's not like, do you know anybody who I can do some work for? No, I want to help them before I do the work. And that's a real shift. That's a real change. People buy from people that they know, like, and trust. That's why I'm here today. I want to get you to know, like, and trust me. I want you to get you to believe that I can do what I know I can do. I want you to get you to believe that I can seriously help you to grow your business. And my goal when I work with people is for every pound that they spend on me, I get them 10 back. I don't always achieve that. Sometimes I get them 30 back. Sometimes I only get them 5 back. But my goal is always to try and get you, if you spend £1,000 on a program, that's going to get you at least 10 grand. The AI advisor is £10 a month. I reckon that alone could make you 50 to 100 grand in the next year, assuming you sign up for it and you use it. That's the key there. So look at some of the stuff you're not doing. If you're not doing Google Ads, why not? If you're not doing video advertising, why not? If you're not doing videos on YouTube, why not? Why aren't you using these tools? They're brilliant. If you're not using AI, if you're not picking up the phone and calling people, if you do nothing as a result of today and attending this and listening to it, then, go and pick up the phone and call people. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. That's twice I've just said that. And it is so incredibly true. So pick up the phone, call people, get them to speak to you, get them on a Zoom meeting, and go and meet them, get in front of them, and then impress the hell out of them, and then convert them into clients. That's about all I've got time for. I've gone on a lot longer than I thought I was going to, but thank you if you're still stuck with me. Thank you for doing so. I hope it's been of value to you. I've enjoyed it. Thank you ever so much. If you've got any questions, easiest thing is to email me. So again, that email is steve@results-mastery.com. If you want to know more about me and how I can help you, then it's results-mastery.com. Thanks very much for listening.